When a conservation technician, such as a staff member from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the local Soil and Water Conservation District, or the local Natural Resources Conservation Service office, first comes to a property, they must talk to the landowner or producer to learn about their operation and determine what the resource concerns are. In this case, the property has livestock that have unrestricted access to the surface water. Preventing cattle from depositing waste directly into streams can dramatically lower bacteria levels in the streams, and it also makes a significant difference in nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment pollution. For example, scientists measuring the effects of providing grazing animals off-stream water found streams carried 90% less sediment, 54% less nitrogen, and 81% less phosphorus in the water. Continual moving to and from water by the livestock can also create erosion to the stream banks, which was evident on this property. By fencing cattle out of waterways, stream banks have 77% less erosion, and that dirt won't enter the waterway and travel downstream, stifling underwater wildlife and vegetation. Due to the lack of shade in many pastures, there are often denuded areas along the stream banks. These are areas that the livestock visit frequently to try and cool off in the summer. Rather than bare soil, it is better to have grass and trees along the stream bank. Trees provide shade, cooling the water and providing leaf litter to the waterway, which wildlife depend on for habitat and food. Once all of the resource concerns are identified by the conservation technician, a restoration or conservation plan is created. This plan locates where all the different best management practices should be installed to improve water quality and improve the overall functional ability of the farm. The resource concern on this operation is livestock having full access to the creek for watering. To address this concern, it was recommended that fence be installed to reduce cattle access to the water. A watering system will be installed to provide clean, cool water for the livestock away from the stream. All of the components needed will have to be designed by the technician who has the expertise to ensure that the system will work properly for at least the lifespan of the project. Polywire and temporary fencing materials were installed to prevent the livestock from continued access to the creek while the project was being installed. These materials can be very useful in determining where the best location is to install permanent fencing to exclude the livestock. The first step of installing a watering system is to install a method of powering it. Methods include gravity, solar, or connecting them to the electrical grid. In this instance, connecting to the electrical grid was the best option for the producer. After a power source was selected, we needed to decide how the water was going to be provided. If a spring is present, that can be developed to provide water for the livestock. For this project, like so many others, drilling a well was the easiest way to provide water. A pumping house structure is installed to protect the vital parts of the watering system from the elements and to ensure functionality in the winter. This pumping house structure was installed into the ground to use the temperature of the ground to keep the components from freezing. A pressure tank and cutoff valves are installed to pressurize the watering system. This is a similar system that would be used in most homes. Water lines are installed to carry water from the well to the pressure tank and then to the watering troughs. It is important to install water lines below the ground's frost line to ensure they will work during the winter. At the trough locations, all the sod is removed and the area is excavated down to the desired depth. It is important during trough construction to remove enough soil so the pad that surrounds the trough is the same height of the ground around it. This reduces maintenance issues in the future. On this project, frost-free troughs were installed. The yellow tube is a heat well that is installed to bring the heat from deeper in the ground to keep the water from freezing in the winter. Properly installing the heat well is the most important element of a frost-free trough. If a trough isn't installed correctly, it can freeze in the wintertime and create unwanted labor to defrost. Providing an alternative watering system such as a trough improves the quality of the water that the animals drink, and animals will prefer to drink from this cleaner source. Drinking more and cleaner water increases milk and butterfat production, as well as weight gain. This translates into more money per head of cattle. Gravel was installed to make a base prior to pouring concrete, and wood forms are installed to get the desired size of the pad and depth of concrete. The concrete is reinforced with wire to make it stronger. Concrete was poured in the forms. Geotextile is installed under and around the trough to create a barrier between the stone and the ground. This keeps the stone from being pushed into the ground. Stone was installed around the trough to at least 8 feet in all directions. This allows for the entire animal to stand on a hardened surface while drinking water. A frost-free hydrant was installed. This way, if a component of the trough ever breaks, the producer has the option of watering the livestock with a temporary trough until it can be fixed. Now that water has been provided to the livestock, a fence can be constructed to keep the livestock out of the surface water. Preventing cattle from standing in water improves herd health. Depending on many factors, a mature cow can drink from 10 to 30 gallons of water a day. If the main source of drinking water is from waterways, then the animal is likely standing in muddy, stagnant water and increasing its exposure to diseases like mastitis. Mastitis is the single most costly disease to the dairy industry, and environmental mastitis is most easily controlled by keeping animal surroundings as clean and dry as possible. Exclusion fence can be a benefit to cow-calf producers. During calving, cows sometimes go closer to water to have their calf. This can create issues if the stream bank is denuded and the calf is not strong enough to walk in the mud. The calf could fall in the water and drown. A riparian forested buffer will be installed to capture nutrients that would have otherwise run off the fields and entered the surface water. Planting trees can uptake these nutrients. Trees also shade the water and lower the temperature so that it is better for aquatic life. Planting native trees is also important for the macroinvertebrates that feed on the leaf litter that falls into the water. If the trees are installed properly and annual maintenance is performed, the buffer can grow into a mature buffer that protects water quality. These buffers also help mitigate climate change impacts, storing carbon and reducing flooding. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation is appreciative to this farmer for working to install this project. This project has been funded wholly or in part by the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality under a Section 319 Grant Agreement 16544 to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. The contents of this document do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of the EPA or DEQ, nor does the EPA or DEQ endorse trade names or recommend the use of commercial products mentioned in this document.